What really we had in Cook County, similar to how there's one highway coming up, we had one existing provider who is challenged in the same way that we are providing electricity. And you have all these trees, you have all this land, it's 93% publicly owned by government agencies, 7-8% privately held. And how are they supposed to deliver services to consumers when they have 5 customers per mile? And they have you see all the rock in the area. It's expensive construction. So, it's hard for us to begrudge the incumbent provider when their job is I mean, it is what it is. It's to make money. The ARRA programs came along. Working with the county, we had an opportunity to apply for the round 2 funding. We did that. We were fortunate enough to receive funds. We're in a unique position as an existing utility company that we have plant all across the county, so we're stringing fiber on all of our existing pole lines, which is about 70%, underground 30%. It's about 550 miles of just plant construction, plus a couple hundred miles of overhead and underground drops. So by the time we're all done, depending upon how many drops we do, we're looking at probably 750 to 800 miles of construction. It's all fiber. The technology that we're doing is GPON technology, 100 megabit symmetrical service to the homes is what we'd be capable of delivering. Now, we're not going to just right out of the bat probably offer 100 megabit symmetrical service. We can provide gig services to businesses, voice, video, internet services, those traditional triple play offerings. And then once those are stable and in the ground, then I think we'll move into more home services that we can provide our members.
So you own all the rights of way and stuff like that. So in terms of make ready, you can just basically do it. Is that right?
Correct. So we don't own a lot of right of way, but what we have easements.
Okay.
So we have some rights of way that we own, but it's very nominal. It's primarily easements and permits across a lot of Forest Service property.
Okay.
So even though we had those, like our Forest Service permits and our permits across state DNR properties said for electric distribution and transmission purposes. So we had to go back and work with them and get new easements specific to fiber.
Uh-huh.
That was not a horrible process because they understand that we're already there, we're already maintaining those rights of ways, and so that they worked well with us. And we have a long established history with the Army Corps, Fish and Wildlife Service, and all of those environmental reviews where you're doing greenfield applications. It's much more difficult. Here where we've already disturbed the land, we're not adding poles, make ready. We have a bunch of make ready, but it's primarily for improving clearance. So we take the pole out, we set a new one back right in the same hole.
Okay. How long did that process take?
We're still doing it.
Okay.
And that's primarily just because we didn't have a need to just rush in and bring in contract crews to get it all done right away.
Uh-huh.
We're trying to use our line crews as much as possible just to maximize the value of the grant dollars.
Okay. And is any part of the network without yet, or what's the expectation for that?
So, I mentioned we just have this single communications line coming into Cook County,
Uh-huh.
and it's hard for us to get a lot of information about what the availability or capacity is of that line, but the quotes we've received for taking some limited services off of that are, we could do it, but it wouldn't be in the best financial interest of the cooperative. It's quite expensive. So there's a middle mile BIP program as well in northeastern Minnesota being built by the Northeast Service Cooperative.
Uh-huh.
And so we have an agreement with that organization. Under their middle mile program, they're supposed to be building up to the Canadian border, essentially duplicating a build that we're already doing as a last mile provider.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to be providing them some fibers in our cable to get them that leg of the journey, and in exchange, they're going to be providing us service to get down to Duluth.
Okay.
They have some construction they need to do yet, just about 9 miles to get that physical connectivity in place.
Uh-huh.
And then they have their main POP down in Duluth. They're kind of building up their own POP that has some work that needs to be completed before they can start offering services to customers.
Okay. I'm really curious about this. How do you measure capacity? I mean, you sized this network somehow. You made an estimate of, if I took this to an existing middle mile provider, this is what the cost would likely be. How is that measured? Is that measured in terabytes a month, or how do you talk to people about the capacity that you need, and how do you measure
That we need?
Yeah.
So what we need having coming into this office, so we can make sure that we have adequate capacity for all of our members.
Yes. Okay, so we have a whole area we're going to serve here. We think there are, I don't know, how many households do you think would be?
We have, it's about 5,300 passings.
Okay, so let's say 5,300, maybe, I don't know, half can
Say
get it.
2,500.
Yeah. I have 2,500 households. How do you size this? How do you measure?
That would be a great question for our engineers.
Okay. This is a question I'm really trying to figure out, because it matters in terms of, how much capacity the network has, what it's capable of providing, and how long it's going to take before it needs to be upgraded.
Well, and one thing, just make sure I reduce permanence before on this thing.
The right one.
Are you familiar with how GPON networks are traditionally built with 1 to 32 splitters?
I'm not.
Okay, so this is real quick. I'm not the engineer, so I'll probably murder this. But the way it usually works is you have an office building with fiber that comes out and it goes into a splitter. So with one fiber, and this splitter will have 32, and this could serve 32 homes. Pretend that's 32. And then these fibers could be super long because they could be going miles. Instead, what we do, or what our engineers designed, is they said, come out of this building with a fiber and put a splitter right here, but only make it a 2-port, and serve these homes with real quick short drops, and then have one right here with a 4-port. And so what it allows you to do is have fewer fibers on this route because you're splitting off more frequently. And so that drops the amount of fiber you need in the network. And theoretically, the idea is when you have aerial fiber, lots of plant, few homes, and you have a fiber cut, you can get out there and fix that fiber cut really fast because you may only have to splice 12 fibers instead of 96 fibers. So it's really about dropping the operating maintenance cost, but still being able to deliver the same capacity services that you traditionally would be able to. So that's not a real good answer to your question. That's probably the best I can do at the moment.
Okay. And how many, do you have any idea of the demand currently? How many people is that?
We have, of the 5,300 members now, we will build a drop to anyone's property that would like us to at no cost, but we're not requiring them to subscribe to service in order to do that. We just feel that eventually that property will want a fiber service. The vast majority will anyway. So let's do it now while we have some grant funding, even if, let's just do it. Get it done with. Of the 5,300 passings right now, we're at 3,500 people that have allowed us to sign up to build that drop. And really where we lag, if you look around Cook County, where we don't see the numbers, is in the city of Grand Marais, which is an area where we don't provide electricity service. The city of Grand Marais is a municipal utility. So to us, that probably says, geez, we did a pretty poor job of communicating in the city of Grand Marais, that we're not getting the numbers. But in addition to that, in the city of Grand Marais is the only place where you can subscribe to 7 meg DSL. You can't do that anywhere else in Cook County. So there's a little bit of that in there too, I think.
How did you said you're communicating with Grand Marais and elsewhere, how did you let people know that this was going to happen? You didn't just show up with the equipment and start digging their lines.
Well, this is an interesting area. It's so small and it's so big, but the people in Schroeder know what's going on in Grand Marais, and the people in Grand Marais know what's going on in Schroeder, and the same could be said for the Gunflint Trail and Grand Portage. It's just
strong wireless network.
Yeah. So news travel, it seems like and I suppose it's true for everywhere, small towns, news travels fast. You know, a little bit in the newspaper. For our members, you know, there's a certain demographic that reads our monthly newsletter that's included with our utility statements every month. And we try to have something in there monthly. Ironically, we try and communicate things on our website and Facebook, which really reaches the seasonal population. If you take the 5,300 passings, nearly 50% of those are seasonals in the form of snowbirds or the weekenders from Minneapolis or Duluth area that are just here all year round on the weekends.
So I guess I would add that that process started even as early as 2008, and you know, when we had to do a referendum, or we went through a referendum process because at one point this was going to be well, there were a lot of different iterations, but there was going to be more public involvement, and but we did have to do a referendum for some sales tax dollars to contribute towards the project, and that required a lot of time and effort communicating with the public about what is being built here, and so that's another part of the communication.
Yeah, on the county side of it, yeah, trying to pass that referendum, you know, it was like a referendum, yard signs going out, you know, vote for the 1% sales tax, and that referendum, I think most people would say, passed to facilitate broadband coming into Cook County. That's what.
I'll cut it back. So, how do people get internet, broadband access now? Is it mostly dial-up?
It's dial-up, it's satellite, and there's DSL services available in the city of Grand Marais, and then there's a little spot east of Grand Marais where it's not available, which was former Quest areas, and once you get, there's kind of a open spot, and then further east you go, there is more DSL available. So, to that end, I don't know how much interest there is in this, but you know, are you familiar with the Universal Service Fund and the Connect America?